Welcome to the work session for the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, July 11th, right?
7/11.
And the first item of our work session is a meeting with the PCTV board. They are arrayed before us. Welcome all.
Thank you.
So did you guys have sort of a set of thoughts to present? Where are you on that?
So we talking to this, or can you
You
hear us?
can, no, the owl is hearing you, God willing. So,
Testing 1, 2.
yeah.
I'll start. My name is Luz Montez. Hi, I'm brand new to the board. I think I've been to 3 meetings.
You know what? Maybe for the benefit of those
Yes.
watching in the recording, why don't you each introduce yourselves? We know who you are. This ends up on PCTV and all, so why don't we start with former Mayor Bernard.
Bernard Gordon, member of the Board of Trustees.
Evelyn Tierney, I work at PCTV.
Joanna Van Trees, member of the board at PCTV.
Stuart McPhee, member of the board of PCTV.
Luz Montez, member of the board, PCTV.
Andrew Garbarini, member of the board for PCTV.
Loretta Chiavetta, member of the board of PCTV and secretary.
Great. All right, so we're back. You don't have to move to that mic. The
Okay.
owl is picking you up. So you were going to
Yeah,
start.
we were just going to say, Stuart and I are the newest members, and we spend a lot of time strategizing and thinking of how to make PCTV exciting and put it on a board so the community really wants to get involved and all the kind of outreach and things that we can do. But the biggest question that we always come around to is, what does the village want from us? What do you appreciate that you're getting from us? What would you like to see more of? What would you like to see less of? Because we're always looking at how to allocate our, our expenses, our funds, how to spend wisely and where to put all our energy. And it's just a big question mark all the time. So thank you for having us here, for meeting with us. And we'd love to hear from you guys.
So first off, thank you guys for coming, and thank the new members of the board for signing on. That's great. So, I think there's a little frustration on our side that over a period of years, we have been pretty clear that the watching on cable TV audience is dwindling. Highly unlikely at this point that most people are saying, oh, at 7:53 p.m. I can sign on and watch X. Dramatically more likely that if there's some content people are interested in, they're doing it through streaming, and obviously that's great. So significant impediment to that has been that the website has just been very, very problematic. And you guys obviously, certainly the older members of the board have seen that over a long period of time. Highly problematic search function, stale content, no real mechanism to drive more interesting content or more current content up front. And this is not a new problem. It's been going on for a long time. So I know that an awful lot of effort has been expended over the last year to try to think out how that could get fixed. And I will say, some of the new members of the board may not have this, but last year in the budget process, there was some frustration about the board's position on maintaining the same base support, but we provided another stipend, which was based on the budget you guys presented for the website, which is an additional $6,500. And we did so again this year. So we've now invested what we perceive to be $13,000 towards improving the website. And that $6,500 number was provided to us by PCTV. So as I understand it, and Paul and I have been through a long meeting with Gigi and Darren and Shane, if I understand it correctly, it's more like $30,000 to sort of rebuild this thing. But to date, nothing's happened. Maybe the server has switched. Has that now happened?
Yes.
But the website doesn't look any different. It still says copyright 2019. It still says breaking news, as it has said for a long time. It tells you the channels it's on. It still says current news. The latest current news today is Memorial Day ceremony a month and a half ago.
If you look on it, no, we changed it to that.
Okay, you changed it today. You must have changed
Yeah,
it
well-
after 3 o'clock because,
No,
or this is what I printed today. So you changed it today, right?
yes, it has to
Okay.
do with the Pleasantville Music
Great,
Festival.
more power to you. Thank you. But again, for the last 6 weeks, it said Memorial Day. This is under PCTV News, May 28th. The next item is ribbon cutting for Paul's office, which was April 8th. You're still pushing live concert at Lucy's benefiting PCTV, that I think is a concert that never happened, hasn't come down. So, I mean, we're talking about going to a website if you can't find what you need, and you are not likely to come back again because of how stale it is, right?
Mhm.
And so, given the fact that, at least from our standpoint, and you guys may have a different perspective and anxious to hear what you think about it, the only way forward for this to serve the community and also to serve our basic needs of getting out our meetings and having them available is if it's easily searchable and current content is up front. And, the good things that are going on, and certainly there's been new content. Joanne has been the Energizer Bunny doing new content, shorter things. Thank you for that. Great stuff. It's hard to get things out. We filmed a music festival preview show 3 weeks ago. It went live Wednesday, 2 days before tickets closed. So, those are all pieces of the picture, but I don't mean to be critical other than to say there's frustration on our side that we're paying $107,000 a year, paying for the insurance, built you a new studio, took over the utility bill, which is previously $13,000 a year, gave PCTV a better studio than it's ever had at a permanent rent of $1,000 a month with no increase. But there's a limit to what we can do. That's kind of where we are.
Okay.
Anybody else have?
Well, as the liaison to PCTV, I mean, I've been to every meeting. I think I've missed a meeting in a long time, and I do have to applaud everyone's efforts in trying to get the website going. It was a difficult ordeal, without a doubt. I believe that so far we're 2/3 done, right, with the website. Like with where we're at, we still need one more contract to deal through. So-
2/3 done to get a contract and
No,
then
no,
to-
no, no,
then to do the work.
we had 3 contracts we had to do. So what we did was, the first one was the contract to move the website, so it was on a server that was ours, which we did, and that work happened. And then we got the maintenance contract done, and the maintenance work has been done and is ongoing because we have a yearly contract now. And now we're on the 3rd contract, which is to go through all the entire list that the consultant put
Keep
together.
talking, I'm just gonna move this mic because
Yeah.
it's in the way of the owl and it's
Okay.
Thank you.
hardly
No
more
problem.
opportunity.
So we're on contract number 3, and when that is complete, we'll be able to finish work on the website. We should have it done by October.
So when you say having it done, is that when the updates to the website will become more?
Yeah, because a
fluid?
lot of the things that have happened are kind of behind the scenes. I mean, yes, there's the part that you see, but then there's all the technical work on the code and things like that to do stuff on the back end.
But
Right.
Jane, do you think that can be moved up till September? Like, could we have someone even take here too? Like if we hear what the mayor's saying,
No, I understand what he's saying. I mean,
it does handicap all of us, right?
Yeah.
You would like nothing better, Joanna, to have everything up like that. Same thing with me. I have a show too, but Shane is one person, right? So here's my perspective. I think Shane works incredibly hard, more hours than probably any of us work at any of our jobs. We're trying to get third-party work, trying to have him do the current work, village stuff, your stuff, whatever, but there's one person doing it. So that's, I think, a problem too. So how do you bring in more money so we can do more things and then still take care of what needs to be done all the time?
So I get that, and believe me, none of this bespeaks any lack of confidence.
Oh,
in
I know
Shane
that, but,
as
I
as
hear
a talented person with enormous capacity to do this stuff. But some of it feels pretty routine. Like again, just in anticipation of this meeting, I printed out today's broadcast schedule, and at 12 p.m. you could see the village board work session from March 14th, and then that was repeated at 6 p.m.
yeah,
Why
and
is
that's not what's currently airing. The MailChimp went out with the actual current schedule.
Okay,
It hasn't
so-
been changed on the website. Yeah,
Yes.
I understand that.
Yes.
So my question to you is this then. So assuming that in the next couple months, we can get the website fixed and operating the way it should. And I understand that that's an issue and that we've had conversations about that.
For years. This isn't new.
Okay, but the consultant process,
Okay,
we took
okay.
a full
I-
year
I
on
mean,
it. Yeah.
It's about going.
Yeah,
forward.
Yes,
it's
how
about
do we
going
go
forward.
That's what we
So
discussed.
my question really is, assuming we can get that fixed and operating the way it should, and we're assuming that we can do that, we have steps in place to make that happen. What are the other things in terms of content? Like, are there things that we're doing right now that the village board doesn't really value in terms of content? Are there things that you'd rather us put our resources towards?
So
We've been talking about programming things that we think might be more valuable, but I don't know if the current, assuming that we can get it to where people see it right away and that it's out quickly and all those things, are we even doing the right content? Or is there stuff you'd rather us be doing or be more helpful that we're focusing on
That's-
those things?
I
as
think
opposed to-
especially while we're getting the website up, we want to make sure that while we're building this, we get your input and the village input.
For programming.
Yeah,
Just
For the
up-
programming to make sure that we have these fabulous links, easy breezy.
Yeah.
What's going on right now in the village, like current events, and also like businesses, highlight certain things like that. And that's sort of where we are with you right now. Our goal is launch the new website in October. That's where we don't have a hard date yet, but we're just have a meeting tomorrow, Wednesday, that we're going to be really working on a hard date. And then also making sure that it looks awesome, maybe do a website reveal gathering. We're aiming toward that of a really big rebrand in October.
Right.
So going forward from that, we want to make sure that, okay, we all like my little spots here and there. And also in the meantime, for whoever's listening, we want to know, you can email us at pctv@pctv76.org, go on Facebook or Instagram. Right now, the website's a mess, as we've said. But give us your feedback as to what you'd love to see. And we know that by doing a little town survey, that there's, we want to incorporate a lot of other different types of programming. And we would really like to encourage the village to jump on that with us so that it isn't just one thing and,
And things that aren't like, they don't have to be timely. Like if you just think about the building that's gone on in this village, how it's transformed from, when I moved here 29 years ago, there was not a light on Washington Avenue, right? So, even.
Two-way street.
Yeah.
yeah.
So that sounds, crazy,
That's
but
because we're old now.
no way, Jen. But there's just, I think there's things that we can talk about this village that make it special. That doesn't have to be about a meeting or something timely, that we're more than happy to
yes.
start producing. So we're
Yes.
ready to roll in the fall and do a
Yes.
rollout and that
So,
kind of thing.
look, I mean, my colleagues can weigh in as they wish. I don't think any of us are trying to tell you what the program ought to be. Obviously, we buy certain services from you, the board meetings and some public events. There's some public events that, maybe if they turn out to be too difficult to do, maybe we don't really have to do them, But certainly the core responsibility to get our stuff, the village meetings and programs out and get them up and have them searchable and available is the core piece of it. But, just speaking, not to say we have any influence, should have any influence any more than any other citizen about what you might do. It does feel like, there's interesting stuff going on all over the place. Obviously, it's harder than it was a decade ago to get people to think, well, I'm going to go to PCTV because now in the YouTube, TikTok,
Yes.
Instagram world, you can roll your own really easily, right? So when this all got started 20 years ago, as you will attest, Jane, the idea that you could go into a studio and be on television and everyone could see it in their homes felt whiz bang. Now it's like ho hum because now your audience is dramatically broader. So that said, just as you said, Loretta, somebody wants to talk about development of the village, somebody wants to reminisce about what it was like. Youth sports, if you've got a couple of high school students that want to do a weekly what's going on in high school sports,
That's
the
great.
kind of thing that builds these different audiences.
Yes.
You guys will report, Shane, Helen, and Bernie. You end up with some audience who watches village board meetings, and those people are by definition geeks, right? Unless there's something,
Or not in my backyard.
well,
Yeah.
unless there's something controversial.
Yeah.
I mean, if you actually want to watch all our resolutions, more power to you, but it's a limited attraction. But by the same token, you got a little piece there, you got a bunch of people who are interested in school content that goes up. Anytime there's a public issue, obviously that develops a bunch, but it would be great if, whatever, for a while there, this ebbs and flows based on who's available. We had veterans programs years back when we had a couple of people focused on that. I'm not saying that's the answer now, but it drew in a bunch of people who don't normally watch. Kids, sports, veterans, the fire department, Pleasantville history, all those things.
Well, we have
These are the
ideas
exact
for, these are,
conversations we have
yes,
all the time.
yes.
Oh, the wonderful broad spectrum, and I disagree. I don't think it has to be home. I think we are on the edge of really, if you look at how vibrant the 10570 Facebook page is,
Yes,
people weigh in all the time, and you ask.
yes,
if you-
painfully so
You know,
sometimes.
I seriously go, like, I found a pair of glasses in the street and I watched go like, oh man,
Yeah.
I give it 6 hours, someone's gonna find them
Yeah.
and find the owner, because that's
Yeah,
Pleasantville. But the fact that we can bring a lot of that kind of community alive and have a lot of involvement on, seniors and veterans and
And the Cub
kids
Scouts
and
and Boy Scouts.
people giving, I mean, you should see our list of like stuff we could do. We have one guy who is also doing a great job of bringing in community, bringing in kids. He's teaching kids to edit.
No doubt.
He's teaching people to shoot.
Yes.
I'm along, we've talked about, hosting classes where anybody who's got any talent or profession to share. And we need to dust off our studio and really make that a great alive space where people know where we are. I was like, well, I heard we have a TV show
Yeah,
somewhere when I came here,
Yeah.
as is everybody. So I think there's a lot to be said, but what we really do need to do is look at our plate of all the stuff that we shoot, all the work that is done already, which is maxing us out so that we can't look at the website every day and go like, take that off. What's that old stuff doing on here? That takes time, man. That's one person's, that's a job. So we are coming to you just hoping you can help us to sift through and go like, is it okay if we, just push back in certain meetings or something? Go like, do we really need this? Or can we, what can we do less of so we can do more of the other stuff? That's the great stuff.
I think this, again, speaking personally, Paul, Michael, it's totally okay with me. You come forward and say, this is consuming a lot of resources and look how many hits it's getting, right? I mean, that's kind of the calculus in the world, right?
Right.
It's just not worth it if it's, some things obviously are essential for the record. But if it's clearly such a small market thing, maybe we shouldn't do it. Or maybe we should do it in a lighter weight, less heavily edited, kind of just roll it out as raw stuff because somebody did, right? I mean, we used to have these discussions years back about, a level 1 show, right?
Yep.
Is that still a thing? A
What's
level
that?
1 show is you come in, Shane will shoot it. There's not a lot of editing. You put a title on it, up it goes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, I don't know how many people there are that are looking to do that at the moment. I'm guessing fewer than once we had, because those people probably are thinking,
Right,
put
we
it up
short
on YouTube,
content,
right?
we could do.
Right, but the reality is too that we're, right now, we have no way of knowing how many eyeballs we've got on each venue of where we're showing things. So,
Yeah.
and getting the PCTV name out there right now is going out through lots of avenues. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one thing that we've
Yeah. Well, and I mean,
increased on.
So can I ask just a practical question? Why is that you don't know how many eyeballs you have outside of the cable aspect? You
Because
should
the
know that on
Website,
all the other
website
platforms.
doesn't work. Right, it's a website.
All the other
Not captured.
platforms, I mean, even the website itself.
Yeah,
has
okay, so
how
we
many
can see,
views.
there's certain metrics you can see like on Facebook and Instagram and stuff.
Right, right.
But is it, is that an actual real like, or is it just a passing through that someone scrolled through and it just caught it for that 1 second? And did they watch the whole thing? And you don't actually get to know that.
Okay, I see what you mean. So
Yeah.
the depth of engagement.
Yeah.
Yes.
You
Get
do
the
have pretty
hits.
good analytics on the back end for
Yes,
Twitter, Instagram,
Yeah.
Facebook, all that when
Yeah.
you're a content creator.
right.
Like on the
So,
website, for example, it only counts it if you watch it for a certain amount of time.
Correct.
Right.
So if you just watch it for like 10 or 15 seconds,
Right.
it doesn't keep the hit.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, and also too on Instagram, it's a little deceiving. So sometimes you think, whoa, I got 4,000 hits and then you're, but how come I only got 20 likes? It's sort of this kind of, and I think if we paid a little extra as like a boost, a sponsor, or whatever, all that promotion stuff, that's the other thing too, is that that's just an expensive, where when we get our really awesome website and content, I think we will.
That's when you think about that.
I think we're gonna do a lot more in promoting it so that people actually know that it exists and it's something cool to watch.
So once you have what you believe to be, you know, a viable website, what's the care and feeding of that going forward? I mean, these things are constantly having to be maintained and updated.
We have a maintenance contract for
Yeah.
that now that we never had before, so that
And
work
what
will be
kind of
going
money is that at?
$5,000.
And
So when you use
is
the
that enough?
$30,000 number, you were including the maintenance
Okay,
contract. Yeah,
so I'm just asking, I mean,
Yeah.
part of what happened, I think, to the website is it got done and then it just stopped. For whatever reason, it wasn't maintained, wasn't updated,
Right.
wasn't, you know, bolted on the new module, whatever.
Yeah.
Was necessary. And, you know, Darren obviously has a whole story about why that happened and why it didn't, again, we're just looking forward,
Right.
not backwards. But clearly there was sort of a cultural or bureaucratic or policy gap that kept that from happening. And I'm just wanting to understand what that looks like going forward. Is $5,000 enough to stay current with the web technology? You know, something's wrong, fix it. New opportunity, fix it. Is it WordPress that he doesn't need?
yeah, well, so there's two parts of the website. So the back end is actually a custom built content management
And
system.
again, I'm the last guy to comment on this, and I trust you all, other than to say,
That's not,
we built the boat in our basement and we have it, but I do wonder whether what we're trying to do needs to reinvent the wheel, or whether we could have bought into a package that mostly did it.
yeah, I mean, if you look at the packages that mostly do it, they're substantially more expensive.
But maybe-
You're looking at like,
I believe you.
yeah,
I'm not challenging you. I don't know.
so that we were trying to
Fair
be,
question.
we were trying to work within a budget that was small and create things that, you know, cost a couple $100,000 for a lot less. I mean, that was basically what we're trying to do. And we're trying to make it so that when you go to see a village board meeting, for example, they're all there in order and you can kind of go back and look at all of them. Oh, there's this topic, I want to go back a couple meetings and see it there too. When you look at any individual series, you know, you're seeing all of them in order. So if you're looking at a garden club show or
Like
a real estate connection show, you
Right.
can see them all in order.
Which would be.
And
great.
which you actually can do now, like
Yeah.
all of my shows that are on there, you click on me as a producer, you can see all 23 episodes that I've done in order.
Right,
Yeah.
but you have to sort of get that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
right, you
yeah.
kind of have
Right.
to, but there is a search
You
bar.
can get there
There's
from
little
here.
things in there you can get there, but it's a
Yeah.
matter of getting there, yeah.
So.
But, okay, no, what I was just gonna say is, and I'm sorry to interrupt, is that there's two parts to it for me. Once we have the website there and working properly and pushing stuff out the way we want to push it out. The second thing becomes content. And we have to kind of, I believe, shift, and we've been talking about it a lot, but I wanted to address it with you guys a little bit. The types of content we're doing, a lot of the things we do are more long form. We're still sort of stuck in like the television world where, for example, going back to the Pleasantville Music Festival thing, you know, that promo show is, the original version was like 45 minutes. Now, 45 minutes is a lot for people to watch. You know, what I like to see in the future, and what I was kind of hoping for this year is, you know, a 1.5-minute section just on parking. Where do you park? And that's something that could go somewhere. So people who are interested in where to park, know where to park.
So-
What are the rules?
Right.
Just the thing on the rules. I mean,
And
to watch 45 minutes to
totally
find
agree.
out.
And
Yeah,
and honestly, you know, I don't mind the idea that maybe that's just a stupid thing to do. Maybe
yeah, yeah.
the benefit of it is so modest in comparison to the effort
work.
required to do.
Yeah, yeah.
to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
So I just want to start thinking, and in terms of you guys thinking, what do residents really need to know? And maybe what types of targeted shows and content can we do, assuming that we can push it out the way we need to, so that what we're actually doing gives you the biggest bang for the buck. That, you know, here are things that we know residents want to know. They might want to know permits, for example. Do I need permits for this? Do I need permits for that?
What is mostly, how many people, when people come to you, what is their top 10 things that Peter gets asked?
Yeah.
We could do a show
Why
like
did I
that.
get it first?
Yeah.
I want to jump in on just this point. So I had very few comments coming in as the new person, right? But one of them is about this conversation. So when I learned how our village government works and met with all of the agents, meet with Parks and Rec, and meet with beautification committee, meet with so-and-so. Most of the time, the vast majority of the time, they bring ideas and then we either budget them or don't budget them. And maybe give a little content idea. But the beautification committee doesn't ask us which flowers to plant on the median. You know, and the Parks and Rec doesn't ask us which games to do at Panther Club or an after-school program. And so when I think about PCTV, I think, I don't know. I don't know what the content is that people want. I'm personally, I don't know. But I guess I also wonder what your response is to that framing, where the other village government committees with which we interact don't really ask us that. And I'm just curious what I mean, it comes up, but they're primarily deciding on their own and then.
Can I answer that actually?
Yeah, I think we all can go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think that this is different in the sense, why I think it's different is that's a specialized, that's gardening. And ours is an infinite, yes, okay, they can pick different plants. They're the experts on the plants, right? They just want it to look pretty. And if someone in the village says, ooh, I don't like that plant, it smells, you could go to the garden club. But for us, it's like an infinite number of possibilities and choices. And that's kind of why we came here today, was to actually, like, you guys feel like we may not be providing the best service that we could be providing. Yes, we know about the website, but you have ideas as to what you think. You personally have you have a kid in each school, you told me, you know, so like, that was why one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, like, what are your goals for the village? You know, why are you a trustee? You're going to have a million choices of things as to, like, when you run, you have a platform on your ideas, but you have an infinite number, I'm sure, of ideas and new things that come to you. So since we're not polling the entire village at this point, which is maybe something we can try to work more on, we want your feedback because you're technically the ones representing the entire village.
Well, I mean, on that score, on that line of thinking, the big topics are development in the village,
Okay.
the pool, and our kids.
Right.
Those are the big topics that
Okay.
I get asked about every week.
Okay.
Right? Personally. And so all of those are on people's minds all the time. Right now in Parkville.
Parking nonstop.
Yeah.
Parking is sure, that's, I don't think we're saying.
Parking and traffic.
But on the point of kids, you make a good point about kids. So how does LoHUD sustain their journalism business? One of the ways they sustain it is relentless coverage of high school sports. Relentless.
Same thing with the Examiner.
I get their, true, I get the LoHUD daily email and I
He's got a
feel like
softball there.
I have one athlete, that's true, but I also, but you just walk around, I mean, you just live in the village and you know, I mean, so I have friends who don't have athletes for children and we're like, why is this town so sports obsessed? I'm like, I think it's not that sport, yeah. But what I'm saying is, when do I hear LoHUD talked about the most is when someone in Pleasantville is up for player of the week in their online poll. Honestly, that's when I hear about it the most. They'll go vote for so-and-so, go vote for so-and-so, you know? It's things like that, yeah, is that a little gimmicky? Sure, it is, it's gimmicky.
Yeah, we could do person.
But they
Because
know that
that's a good idea for person.
that brings in a different crowd. It brings in teenagers and their parents, which is a big part of, of our town. And so I suppose that is an idea, right? So I guess I do have some thoughts.
Yes, that's great.
But-
Yeah, thank
But I don't have
you.
a ton of them. I'm not like.
We're gonna do a feature on your kid.
I know,
I don't care what he plays.
Michael, we're not here for you to do our job, right?
Right.
We're here to be respectful because
Yeah.
quite frankly, PCTV has had some pushback because maybe people didn't like the result or the fact that things weren't instantaneous. So all we're doing is trying to be respectful and work as a partnership because we really understand the value and obviously the town does, the village does, the board does, because you finance, our budget and so forth. But it's really respect and wanting to make this the best we can because we have a lot of talent. We have producers who are come from ABC and Independence, and we just want to have good content, and we're just really being thinking of you. You guys.
Just one way to potentially answer that question, because I think it's a really good one, is, you're our biggest client, in the relationship that we have. And one thing that I think all boards get dinged with all the time, whether it's true or not, is communication. You guys don't communicate better, like we don't know this information, we don't know that information. I think, in our relationship, we should be viewed potentially as a little bit of, an outlet, a PR outlet where you guys can get out the information that you're trying to get to the public. And then, we try and find the best ways to make sure that everybody knows. And so as long as we know what you think is important to get out to the people, we can focus on those things, because we're your kind of television web potential arm if we do it right. And so,
And I
sorry.
totally agree with that. And I think, resolving the website thing will improve that. I mean, in the midst of the worst of COVID, I did a little video that I recorded sitting in my own office with a webcam.
Right.
Low production values, but decent enough, and up on Facebook, and they got hundreds, in some cases, a few thousand views very fast. Of course, there was a circumstance where people were really not, all of us obviously were like, what does this mean? Where is it going? What do we know? What do we not know? And so it was something that was very, very current, and God forbid we end up having to do something like that again. Hopefully we won't. But it was just an interesting example where at a time when everything's kind of shut down, I could do that sitting in my office in front of a webcam and put up a pretty decent thing up on Facebook at our Facebook page right away, like that day, and got a lot of views. So that would have been less successful through your site, just because even if you got it up the same day, people aren't used to going there because it's not really been a resource, right?
Right.
And you all see it, we see it too.
Yeah, right.
People ask a question on almost any 6 or 8 different Facebook pages,
Mhm.
and they kind of are expecting that all of us are listening in, and then we're going to respond, whether it's 10570 or you think you're from Pleasantville If, or Pleasantville Peeps, or Pleasantville Talks Change, or
Right,
you've got all these things,
right.
and it's a never-ending chase to try
Right.
to keep up with all that. Well, what obviously would help is if people felt like,
They can get all the information in one
well,
spot.
you'll never answer all the questions all
Sure.
the time, and it's sort of a losing proposition to combat every crazy thing that people say.
Mhm.
We see it going on obviously in the world in general. Somebody says
Mhm.
something, and before you know it, it's gone off down a rabbit hole. You're like,
Mhm.
how did that happen?
Sure.
But I do wonder whether, obviously the Chamber of Commerce has redone their website, that sort of business linkage, and the
Mhm.
Facebook page there, the 10570. If people really got driven to the website
Mhm.
as a place to find stuff,
Mhm.
it's going to take some time to change that perception.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what, that's.
And I would say between now and, your hope for mid-fall rollout, is it a big deal to change some of the stuff that sort of screams like stale? Like,
Well, that's all good. Yeah.
I'm looking.
Oh, we're
I
changing, we're gonna,
But I mean,
get-
I
yeah,
know you are eventually, but like tomorrow, is it a big
Oh.
deal to change the footer that says copyright 2019? Is it a big deal to get rid of our sponsor, Pleasantville Pharmacy, which closed 2 years ago? These are all things that cause you to say, oh,
right.
Okay.
I guess they still have a site, right?
I also think that on a practical sense too, what I had suggested in the meetings was figuring out what is taking the most time of Shane to do, and seeing if we could essentially replace doing other stuff, like this content, like, so, we have these work sessions, and that was something that we started taping during the pandemic. Used to not, right? Correct? Used to not tape the work
Yeah,
sessions?
that's true.
Yeah.
So, but either way, Shane's here and you start setting up at one time, usually when you come at like 5:30,
No, I come between 6 and 6:30, depending
6
on.
and 6:30 here, and then you're here, and some of our meetings go till about 9:30, 10:30. So,
Or later.
the idea is to maybe to see if obviously we're gonna have a meeting, and we know in advance, always, if we're gonna pass a resolution or something that's really important. Maybe there is times when we have you here live taping, but maybe in other times, the owl could just do its job.
Right, I mean, just, oh, go ahead.
I want to corroborate that. It was a point I wanted to make as well. So, I mean, in the university setting, which is where I spend my days, during COVID, all the screen capture technologies became, well, a part of our daily lives, right? How to produce, like you say, very low quality, but archival footage for government work,
Mhm.
and that, if that sort of thing could be, taken off your
We have
plate.
on the screen over there, is that on?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
So are you, so
Yeah, I'm on the screen right now. I see it, and you were on the screen with,
just for
Michael,
example,
yeah.
Owl has, this is what, a $2,000 device, something like that?
Yeah.
900.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing crazy fancy, but they keep upgrading the software. Every time I log in, it's an update. And I have it right now, first time we've tried it, on the let Owl decide what to focus on.
Mhm.
And it's doing a pretty good job, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
So-
it is.
So
It's,
I guess, jumping out of what Paul said, it is entirely possible, and maybe even probable, maybe even a good thing, if we get to the, certainly don't need you to be here for a work session. This is fine, and we're getting a recording in the cloud and transcript out of Owl as part of our contract. Maybe it's good enough for a regular meeting too.
okay,
And then you don't have to come at all, and that knocks out a bunch of hours that are
High
spent.
quality hours.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so in terms of the
Editing
balance,
and
like, if I think.
well, no, I
Excited.
still then download it and put, and
Right.
upload it on the
Right.
website, but I wouldn't have to be here. What?
You can get the Owl.
I was just gonna say, if
Yeah,
I think of
I did.
PCTV's, core mission as a government archive and community engagement, if we can reduce the hours of the government archival work, then.
Yeah,
definitely-
Yes.
okay.
That's what we're
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what we
Yeah.
want.
okay,
I think that's a great idea.
See, you have another good idea.
yeah.
You've been holding out on
Well,
us.
Peter,
I just want you to know these are the first two ideas he's ever had.
Oh.
Where is Michael? What have you done with it? So, again, like,
Okay,
great, have at it. Every now and again, we discuss something in a work session that's of significant interest, but for the most part, you've got to be a pretty serious civics geek to be going on to PCTV to look for a village board work session.
so going forward after tonight, you want to try that for a while and see how it
So,
works,
I mean,
like for
let's
the
see how
summer
this
and
came
see?
out, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna leave it this way. Of course, the other problem is when I have control of the Owl, but when I'm doing it, I've got other stuff to do and I don't always move it around enough. I think this may turn out to be a great answer. Right? And honestly, it's pretty decent.
So, back to that question, do you want to try that going forward, which, should we take the rest of the summer after tonight and say, let's try it and see how it works?
It's okay by me. I mean.
Okay, and then, if you guys.
How about
will
this? Let's
come-
say preliminarily, yes, let's try it the rest of the summer.
Okay,
But let's see how these videos come down from our work session today and our regular session.
okay,
And see how it works. I mean, we have
Right.
3 police appointments, so there's a swearing in and all of that.
You want to be there for that.
And
well,
so-
I wasn't. leaving-
Like that would be a good
I'm-
one.
Yeah,
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Those
you know
might be
something with
moments
swearing
when
in.
it warrants
Right.
having you behind a catcher.
Yeah.
right,
As
okay,
opposed to hoping the Owl is.
And there
But
can be
whatever it
topics.
captures, that is then kept as a QuickTime that could be posted.
yeah, so
It gets
Eric
uploaded
sends
to the
me,
Yeah.
like, for example, they had 2 daytime meetings. They had like a 4-minute meeting, on Thursday?
Thursday has these check.
Yeah.
The checks.
And then the July 1st, they had a meeting, so that was like a 10-minute meeting. So Alyssa actually sent them to me, and then I downloaded them, put titles on them and formatted them and put them up
Is the audio
Yeah.
going in through the Owl or through the mic?
Yeah.
through the Owl.
How is it? How's the audio?
It's not as good, but
Gets a
No,
Well,
job.
Peter
Yeah,
said he's gonna
yeah.
listen to it. Like,
Yeah,
he'll let us
yeah.
know.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
that's
So
the
let's see how
point.
it goes.
yeah, okay.
But.
But there's gonna be some meetings, but this
Yeah.
place will be full and you're gonna need to be.
Right.
Yeah, no, so it's communication.
It's
Yes, you will know.
Yeah,
Use
we'll
rec-
plan it.
use
We'll plan it.
recognition.
Snow blower, not snow blowers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, but that's also.
Leaf
Leaf blowers,
blowers.
leaf blowers.
Yeah.
That's also the
Yeah.
opportunity for PC to be grabbed, like, we're gonna be there covering this meeting live, and you can go and watch it live the way that you have in the past, make it something where we're utilizing the fact this is really special.
Can we go live through the government feed off the Owl?
We would have to. Yeah, we would just have to hook it up to to the computer in the
All
back.
right, so that's something to think about. And again, you know.
Because
maybe
we're
this
going live now on
$900 device is
PCTV
not
and
the
on
deal.
television at the same time. So this is on Zoom, and it's also, you can see it back there, it's actually on the, it's going out live.
So,
If you go to PCTV76.org right now, it's streaming live.
because that camera's on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we don't have to get into the details of this right now, but again, if we need to make some technology investment to do a better job in this room,
Right,
and honestly, what that means potentially is planning ARB zoning board can do the same. You know, at the moment, we're setting up the owl
right.
because we don't just let it sit here. And but if we got to the point that we had some fixed cameras that could do the same thing, maybe, maybe that be it. Planning can flip a switch and they're live.
The other thing I think that's important to note, and we did a little bit of this last year, is we have the ability now to go live anywhere there's an internet connection on TV and online as well.
Mhm.
So we had last year, I think, Michael, yeah, you were already on the board. We went live from the Clinton Street Center. For clients like the school, we've done graduation was live
Yeah.
online and on television.
I mean, another discussion we've had, and you know, now that Shane is a board member, board president emeritus, maybe the options are better to be a little more assertive about it. But I feel like PCTV does a lot for the schools, and I'm not trying to say, you know, they need to up their game in a massive way, but it does feel like, you know, that this investment in the website that you guys are making and the co-broadcasting you do for them and the management of their archives, they have a good deal.
Oh.
Fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, those fees have been upped, and I imagine the negotiations will continue to.
Right.
But
Well,
they're
and I
paying
know
more
they-
than they were, yeah.
Right, they pay for big things like.
No, but they
actually
also
play.
paid for a computer, for website maintenance,
Right.
and
But it's still a
that's been
modest number
added.
relative to what you're looking at now. You know, and I don't know what the answer to that is.
Who,
and I'm not-
who monitors your website? Like, because how come we don't, because I was sort of curious, like on just the Village of Pleasantville website, why we don't have like a calendar of what's coming up.
So, I mean, there you have it.
Yeah.
There are our administrator.
Yeah.
They're everything on a given day.
Mhm, mhm.
Um,
So you and Shane can probably relate, so, because we're all volunteers, it's not my day job to update what's going on Pleasantville, you know, but,
Look, I mean, it's small town living. We
Small
have no
town
IT
living.
department on the village side. And you look at, you know, communities, bigger communities, towns of 20, 30,000 people, they're in a whole different circumstance than a community of 7,500 people in terms of what's realistic to afford. And yet it's perfectly reasonable for saying, well, look what White Plains does. Well,
Sure,
it's
sure.
just
but like Chappaqua, I mean, I get their newsletter too, and
Yeah.
it says that like a whole section of dates of upcoming.
Yeah, same story. So Chap, I don't have looked lately, but I think Chap on a half-time person, staff person for communications. If I got that right, I think I something to that effect.
Oh, I don't know.
But
I don't know
again,
now.
we're talking how many people in Newcastle? 28,000, something like that.
Oh, okay.
It's a whole
It's
lot
way
bigger
different, okay.
base.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm proud of the fact that it long predates me. Bernie can report Pleasantville plays way above its weight class.
Yeah, sure,
In many, many ways, but
right.
you know, we're in a circumstance just, so, you know, I had this conversation with someone the other day who had the idea that, oh, look, you know, okay, fine, this project, which might cost $10 million. Well, $10 million, come on. That's not so much. And of course, it doesn't feel like so much in a world where suddenly people are paying $1 million, $1 million, $2 million for houses left, right, and backwards.
Mhm.
And so like 10 million, that's, well, $100,000 in expense raises your taxes by 1%. Like 1% increase. So in a tax cap environment where typically we're, you know, 2%, less than 1%, occasionally more than that, that means we can spend like $200,000 more than we spent last year, which is completely consumed by
Sure.
healthcare.
Right.
So that's the blessing and the curse of
Right.
small town living.
Right.
It's a tax base that doesn't take much to raise
Right.
your taxes in a significant way. So
Right.
uh,
But to be just
clarify, your 1% is about a 0.25% of your total tax bill. So that's not, when you say, that's what people will say, oh, my tax bill is going up 1%. It's not, your total tax bill is going up 1/4%.
Except that all the other taxing entities, especially the school, are in the same circumstance that we are. And when they raise their taxes by 1%, it
Well,
starts to look
that's
like a big
what
number.
we're talking about the
Right.
village.
Yes. So, and again, lots of people, especially people who pay their taxes through a mortgage escrow, don't have any idea
Right.
what their school taxes are versus a village tax versus a town and county tax. They could find it out, but they
don't open that
pay the
piece of
escrow.
mail.
So, anyway, we're in a circumstance where we're gonna rebuild the pool. And I firmly believe we should rebuild the pool. But we were fairly confident it was 2.8-ish million. Now it might be 4 million in the principal. Hopefully that comes sliding back in the other direction as the world stabilizes. Certainly there's been a little bit of evidence that maybe it's starting to come back. We absolutely are not in a position to be doing that with any kind of regularity.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and I think that's something that, like, with our goal for new content and sports, sports was a really good one that you brought up, because I think that people do want to know what's going on and what happened that weekend. So during the football season when we had it, was so exciting. Yay, Buzzville. I go to the games, I'd watch the game, I try and get some clips. Shane would get some clips of the game, and then that next Monday we were back in it, and I was saying, okay, so last weekend this is what happened. This weekend we're going to play at this place at this time, blah blah blah. And we had it going for like, and he edited it. We got it out every single week in the
Right.
beginning.
and did it get a lot of views?
Not enough. Yeah.
And was that just because people didn't realize it was out there? I mean,
They didn't, and I think that was the thing, is then, because it was new content for PCTV. So it was new content, and it was on the website like immediately. And then we were posting some of it, we were posting it on Instagram and Facebook, and people mostly saw it there because they didn't know to go to PCTV yet. So I
I
think,
find it takes like, 6 months of being very, very consistent for, something to really start to build and for people to,
and I'm sure that's.
yeah, and I
really
think,
start to
Years back,
find it.
you had Tom Price,
Yep,
high school kid,
Yeah.
Marv
Awesome.
Albert guy.
right.
And so he got going on that stuff,
Yeah.
and,
but
so
in that
obviously-
sense, he needs someone with them, right? An adult, whatever, and then the editing of it, and to make that, all those things so we take the time away from in here. So we're going to allocate that time for Shane to do those games. But then what about, girls soccer? And then the priority of which ones do we?
I mean, I don't know, and who knows if it could actually build into a
Right.
little bit of a tradition, but if you had some high school kids who were interested perhaps in a career in
That's the
broadcasting,
idea.
certainly
Yes.
interested in
Talk about
sports,
That is the
who
idea.
like, this is cool, we can have, weekly,
Exactly.
Game of the week and you rotate it, so you get some
Mhm.
softball, you get some.
Mhm.
football,
whatever,
yeah.
they come in to the studio, they give them a microphone with the PCTV logo on it,
Yeah.
and they
Wouldn't
do
that
their
be great?
15-minute shtick,
Yep,
and then all their friends want to watch that, right?
Right.
Yep.
It starts,
And
it
they'll
all
all
starts
share
to
it, yep.
feed.
right.
Yes, it's great.
And you're
Well-
also getting interns from Pace and from the high school. And you're doing, most of the kids who are in media, I think, start off, a lot of them wanting to get into sports media. Because
Sure.
it's such a big market. So then you're putting that out there as, oh, Pleasantville's got a place where I can get an internship before I even go to college, working and doing something like that.
Well, it's funny because
And once again,
I like
it's
literally went to the high
interesting.
school and I got the list and I talked to Joanne Wallace and we talked to a bunch of kids and they were all, yes, yes, yes. And then they didn't come.
Yeah, I mean, it's
You know,
hard. It's hard to
they're
keep-
all,
Same.
they're scheduled for this and this and this and this. And their parents are like, well, that's not, so it's just our
there-
mind is there.
And there's,
The
some of
desire
these
is there.
kids, you hear whatever, the speakers at graduation or kids you encounter, who are, kind of interesting characters.
Yes.
I mean, I remember with fondness, I forget his name, an Eagle Scout ceremony, and each of the Eagle Scouts speaks, and the kid gets up there, and at one point he says, and I gotta give a shout out to my father. He came with me on, Operation Zero Camp Out, in the frigid, whatever, and he says, believe me, I come from a family that didn't spend a lot of time outdoors after the invention of indoors. It was a great line, right?
That's great, that's great.
But it's funny because literally we had a brainstorming session yesterday, and then Luz said that she goes, we gotta talk to these amazing kids, like
Those Eagle
let's
Scouts.
do those Eagle Scouts and these Juilliard kids that are prodigies and
Yeah, because Pleasantville has changed.
yes.
When my kids were younger, it was sports, but
Mhm.
it's
Oh,
really,
there's
they
so much
widened the net, it's
Mhm.
arts, it's
Come
theater, it's
on,
music.
Pirates of Penzance Middle School.
I know, come on, yeah.
It's so great.
It's true.
But yeah. But it's also, it's the time that it takes to hunt them down and then the
I
follow-up.
get it. I
Well,
get
then
it.
she has to
And then
train us, like,
forget,
okay,
yeah.
that's a full-time job.
Yeah.
But look, you helped us a lot today in being willing to shift the work.
Mhm. Yeah.
We would cry if you said like, well, you're doing so much less for us now, so we're gonna cut
I
your
mean,
budget. Because
believe
that would be,
none of us, including the two folks who are not here tonight, are trying to kill PCP. We're
thank
not.
you.
And I mean, I hope that our investment in the studio and taking over utility bill and giving you that stability
Mhm.
is evidence of that all by itself.
Mhm.
I realize that, that isn't solving every
Mhm.
problem you have, but I also think, obviously the website piece sounds like it's headed to a resolution.
Mhm.
And maybe the effort to find that resolution has uncovered some of the reasons it was so stuck for so long. And that's all good. I mean,
Mhm.
as we've said, we could hash out why the world is the way it is, but it's about today going forward.
And that was why we wanted you to know that we're all here, because we
Yeah.
wanted you to know that we want to hear what you have to say. We want your input. We want the village input. We want to give the people what they want.
All right. So I hate to push you out, Toby.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're out.
Thank you
We
so
have a
much.
chief here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome to stay.
I will.
Yeah. 3 police officers. Now we're back to work session. Did you have a chance to take a look at the attached document that shows the improvements that Fat Root proposes to make to build a dining area in Jackson Alley on the side of their building?
We've been working on, I think they showed us something like this already once, right?
Yeah, I was wondering what the changes were from the previous one, if they were,
Todd Albright's on.
if they were in response to us, or if they just, because it definitely looks different than before.
I'm promoting Todd Albright.
He's involved. Hey, Todd,
Hi, how are you?
a full-scale panelist.
see
So, folks were just asking how the proposal for the alley project has morphed since we last saw it. Do you want to just give a quick?
I'm sorry, I missed that. The audio was a little,
One of the questions that Michael asked was how the layout of the proposed construction had changed since we last saw it. I think that's largely, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, largely due to the effort to make certain that there was still an opportunity for Miyabi to properly serve their patrons on their side.
yes, and we made it just dealing with the grade two levels instead of the original had three levels, or one level it has one step in the middle, so that was the only, and we made it like 18 inches narrower to accommodate for plenty of walkway and Miyabi.
And the end closer to the Burns is handicapped accessible ramp.
Correct.
But otherwise, this would provide, I think, a really nice improvement to the alley. I know you guys have all been in touch with the folks on our public art group who have been thinking about a mural that might incorporate this wall, and it sounds like that has been addressed as a possibility that wouldn't be inconsistent with what you're doing.
Yes.
All right.
Mhm.
I have one question about the materials. I feel like the previous version we saw was wood, and this is aluminum along the edge. Is that correct, or am I misremembering?
Well, the base is pressure treated wood, and then it'll have a like a Trex decking on it.
And then the guardrail is
It's an aluminum rail.
Yeah, what will that, I think just thinking about the aesthetics of how it looks from the side, do we have a visual of that, or is there a?
Well, there's an
That will go
elevation
to-
on page, there's
that will go to-
an elevation on page 3. It's a black aluminum railing.
No, I know, I saw it, and it's just a line drawing, so.
Right, yeah.
It's hard to, is that something that goes to
I
ARB?
think
or-
ARB has already looked at this. Am I
Okay.
right? Am I right, Todd?
Yes, yeah. So I'm told that there might be a Trex type of a railing that, you know, might also look good. I have not seen it yet. The architect had mentioned it. Either way, it would look the same, either it's aluminum or the Trex material.
Well, so my sense on that is obviously leave that in your hands, and Robert can send that back to the ARB if they need to, but I am certainly in favor of this, and I can say I have peeked into the renovations that have gone on inside Fat Root, and it's pretty darn impressive, so.
It's coming along. Thank you.
A shout out to all of the folks involved for the high level of attention to design, appearance, and function that exists not only at Fat Root, but also at Plum Street, so.
Thank you.
I would second that. I had a long talk with Miguel last week, just happened to be in at Club Street talked a lot about the development, and it seems like there's a lot of excitement there. So thank you thanks for the innovation and for the investment.
Trying to keep it fresh. Yes, a lot of good things. I think there's a lot of good restaurants attracting to Pleasantville. It's all good. Mhm.
Any thoughts, Paul, that you want?
Excited. We look forward to hopefully doing a ribbon cutting when you guys get all this done from the chamber.
Yep. Very much
Right,
awaited.
so, you know, consistent with whatever Robert may think is necessary, if anything further is necessary, you certainly have our support. Go for it.
Thank you.
We just, from a paperwork standpoint, we're drafting a license agreement that will have in place that will be executed by the board. The one, Todd, I think Robert had mentioned to you, there is a fee whenever a business operates on village property. We have to levy a fee for that, so that's what we're working out. But Todd, I'll get that to you, a draft to review in the coming days.
Terrific.
All right. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Thanks to Hogan, thanks to Miguel, thanks to all of you guys doing such good work.
Thanks. See you soon. Thank you.
All right. Any
Goodbye.
other items of any kind to bring up? All right, we're heading off then into executive session on matters of real estate and personnel.